last and second. We have three ladies here. Julie Hayden from Nordic Game Jam, Annakaisa Kultima, Finnish, from Finnish Game Jam, but actually from University of Tampere, and Satu Suurinen, who's from Rails Girls. Yeah. So I'll let you introduce yourselves with, alongside with your rant, which you have prepared. So if Julie would like to start.
I would like to start. Am I on? Can you hear me? Awesome. Hi, I'm Julie. Yeah, I'm here on behalf of Nordic Game Jam, and I'm also here on behalf of a platform that we're currently creating for Game Jam games that we want to see the world. And then I also run a company back home in Copenhagen called Bandello. And basically, I have to point at you, Tim, and then you have to look at me. Tim, who's sitting there, raise your arm. And we're co-organizing the Nordic Game Jam together with a bunch of other people back home in Copenhagen. And Tim is also organizing Exile Game Jam, and we're also going to other game jams and other events in the Nordic region and Germany, for instance. And we just love the concept of game jams and that you actually create a fully blown game in 48 hours, for instance, your game. And we also really, really love when the game jams that are created, as this year's winner, the Finnish Game Jam, that you actually make a commercial game out of that and actually get to publish something. And that we find really, really awesome. And that's what we want to promote more, and that's why we're creating this platform called unicorn7.org, because we couldn't get the .com, my mistake. And I just basically don't have a lot of rant about it. The thing I do have a rant about is the solutions that exist right now, because when you've been on a game jam, you've had this awesome couple of days, 3 days experience, and you've got a lot of new best friends, and afterwards you want to play the games the other guys did, and you can't always find them. And that was a problem that we ran into, that you always have some links somewhere on Facebook or Twitter and so on, and we just really want to collect the games so you can see what your friends are doing, and you can go back and show their games on events like this, as we did this morning. So I guess that was my 3 minutes, right? Or was I way too fast? Oh, well, Tim has a question. Sorry.
Okay.
No, you're okay. Ask me something. I'll repeat it so everyone can hear it.
Wait a minute.
I totally almost agree with Julie. But as a good example, I think Chris Hecker in 2010 did a talk or rant at GDC where he talked about kind of the bad things about game jams. And he also showcased Cactus' games, like he made 1 gazillion games in less than 2 hours or something like that. And a lot of people are just making those games, but they just disappear afterwards, and they never really go anywhere. And I think his talk was titled "Shut Up and Finish Your Game," and I think that's been quite an inspiration.
So it's good when people actually just shut up and finish their games, like the guys down here.
Okay, so next we have Annakaisa.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to use the mic. So my name is Annakaisa Kultima, and I'm at the University of Tampere teaching game research and doing my PhD on the creative process of game developers. So I've done game research stuff from the 2005. And I've been running 3 game jams in Finland, in Tampere, and also coordinating the Finnish participation to the Global Game Jam. Also now running the team committee for the whole Global Game Jam. So at the moment, trying to think about how to actually stimulate people to make more creative stuff. What else? Yeah, so my rant is actually a little bit maybe more of a rant, and I hope that it's not too long. Okay, so I'm gonna, hopefully I get the sound for that.
Tuleeko se siitä koneesta ne sanat?
And the picture. Okay, cool.
Ooh, I'm in the way.
I'm just gonna make sure that we have the sound. Do we hear anything? Because it's right. Because the sentence that I'm not gonna play the whole keynote, but the sentence is right in the beginning. So if there's no sound, well, whatever.
It didn't load a lot.
No, I mean that when I push it, it starts.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, should be.
Okay. Oh, let's try.
Okay.
It's not too.
Guys, we have no audio.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Let's not hang on.
Is this me?
So, could you move
Okay, it's not that important. So here is a keynote of Global Game Jam 2012. There's other people also talking. It's supposed to be like a starting point for the jamming for the weekend, so 48 hours of making the game. So there's John Romero and Brenda Brathwaite talking about their experiences with game design. So I'm not going to play this if you don't get the sound. Anyway, so John Romero is saying that one of the biggest mistakes that you can make is to get too ambitious with your design. And I do understand that actually what he means is that don't make too many details, don't make it too complex. But then again, they go on and with their keynote and they just talk about what are the things that helps you to actually finish the game within the 48 hours. So they're talking about how not to fail within the game jam. And that actually pisses me off, because the whole idea of the game jam is not to be afraid of the failure. So what they're just making people to think about the thing that they have to make it finished, and not actually thinking big and to take risks, because that's the part of the nature of the game jam. So this is the event that you're not making a portfolio case for your studies. Actually, a lot of people use game jams for that, but that's not the essence of the event itself. So it's supposed to be about failure. So 20 games this year only from the side of our side, Tampere, and it's like the third year of ours. And there's like one team that didn't made it to the end. And it's like, that's great, but I would have wanted to see more failures. So I would have wanted them to kind of think bigger and to be more ambitious with their thoughts and to be more crazy, so that they don't actually make it in 48 hours. So it's not a competition, it should be about like experimentation, right? Okay, so this is actually some of the things that also yesterday Tuomo Tämänpää was talking about. So experimentation includes failure. And we do have a name for kind of the process with failure. It's called iteration within the game development. So it is part of that. We don't call it failure, but we still are afraid of it. Within my data that I've been interviewing a lot of people with the industry, and they always, as like the last panel, they're talking about execution. And it's not the idea, it's the execution is the most used slogan within the industry itself. But I would dare to disagree. Of course, the execution, the nature of the game design is such that you actually see the magic of the design only after you played it, so it's in the experience. But a lot of the game ideas suck in the beginning. So I don't know if you even should try to execute it. Okay, so I would kind of say that when people are saying that it's not the ideas, it's the execution, I would say, fuck that. There's just recent sentence or recent thought also within the industry from the 2K games. Christopher Hartman said that games must achieve photorealism in order to open up new genres. It's like also this kind of a technological bullshit is going on. It's like we have all the things that, you know, we can do a lot of things with games and game design without these advancements and without the skills even. When you're a student and when you're naive, you have the opportunity to fail a lot, because you don't have the cynical thoughts like the guys that are sitting, like the four guys here. But I would dare to say that their success is built on their mistakes. So yeah, okay, it is a little bit too long, right? But this is like this is my rant for a long time now, and so yeah, I would say that. For some reason we are too focused on getting things done. So we're not actually dreaming big and taking the risks and actually pushing the envelope of creativity. And to say again, I have still some things here, but I'm going to cut it short. So to say things like, to conclude is like, Game Jam is not an event of a game college, even though it is run by a lot of like schools. But it's not supposed to be something that you kind of just finish the game. Why don't you just try something crazy and, you know, push your limits and, you know, stop making excuses that your game ideas are interesting, right?
Okay, so thank you. That was.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Because I keep doing stupid stuff with the mic. Like, I don't know how it is here, but at least for the Nordic Game Jam, it's very little a part of anyone's study program.
I know,
because it's more about basically people in the industry doing something fun just for a weekend instead of working on bigger games.
I know. And Nordic Game Jam is an exception.
Okay, because I don't know how it is anywhere else, because we also always at the Nordic during a local game jam.
I think it's a huge exception. So there's a lot of schools that run these jams, and even with the discussions within the global game jam organizers, we have the disputes whether it's a competition or not, whether it's an experimentation or not, and there's like very different views for that, and a lot of the people just want their jammers to finalize their games within the 48 hours.
We also have like a lot of the smaller game development team that just go there, and that's actually where they prototype their next game, and that's where they come up with the ideas, because all friends are there and you help out each other and so on. So we see a lot of games coming out of that.
But it's also, you have a long history, so maybe you're more comfortable with the failure also. It's like you try to be more risky every year, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so before any questions in the audience, let's take Satu's turn now. So apparently this heats up many feelings. So apparently we're going to have to continue with this subject after Satu.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. First, I want to thank you for this opportunity on behalf of the Rails Girls to be here today. I have been a member of the Rails Girls team since March. I'm not a developer. I don't even play games. My background is in medicine and business studies. Is there anyone here who hasn't heard about Rails Girls? Okay, then I will tell you something. Rails Girls is a volunteer community which aims to give women tools for building their ideas on web. We arrange free one-day workshops for women in web development. And the focus of the workshops is in beginners, and even the total beginners get to build their very first web application during the workshop day with the help of our coaches who are volunteer software professionals. Railsco started in 2010 when Linda Liukas and Kari Saarinen put together the very first Rails Girls workshop here in Helsinki. And since then there has been like 15 Rails Girls workshops in Helsinki, in other European countries, in Asia, in South America, and in the US. So today Rails Girls is a global community. And the growth of the community has even been faster now after the guides how to arrange the Rails Girls event were open sourced in May. And we are expecting about 20 more Rails Girls workshops worldwide by the end of this year. And yes, we do want to drive the change and fight the current gender inequality in technology. But on the other hand, we don't want to build another female community. Instead, we are encouraging the participants to join the local existing communities like Ruby Brigade. And yes, we do believe that the road to gender equality in technology is paved with code.
Okay, so let's start this panel rolling. So everybody has introduced themselves, and apparently there was one question. Before I get to that, let's see. There's apparently a lot to discuss about the nature and the philosophy of in the game jam events. So let's take that, but also discuss on the learning process of the game jam and about the social aspect of programming, and for example, getting new persons or new individuals who wouldn't have without social programming to learn programming and start making games. So, but first we have to assess this. What's the philosophy, or what's the what are game jams for? So you had a question there.
Yeah, so it seems that the definition of a jam is kind of fractured at the moment. Some people think you should finish a game and that's that. Some people think that it should be a prototype then worked on later. Some people think you should try something crazy and fail a lot. But maybe we shouldn't call all of those jams. Maybe jams should be only things where you're supposed to fail, or maybe jams should only be things where you're supposed to finish a product, and all the other stuff should have another name, so that we wouldn't put everything under the same umbrella and thus create confusion and arguments and a lot of bickering. What do you guys think?
Well, I basically think about it, for me, a game jam is a very social event, and it's also where everyone meets up and say, hey, how are you doing, and what are you working on besides this? And then you start creating stuff together. And some have already, again, I don't know how it is at like up here, but for instance, at the Nordic Game Jam, normally we call the capitalist and the communist track. So some people on the capitalist track, they've already like settled for a group, and just people from their company or someone that they know are flying in or whatever. And the other one, it's basically people joining and getting to know new people at the event. And we have these sessions where we help people get in groups, and if they need a group or they need a programmer or whatever. So like the social aspect, in my opinion, is very, very important. And it's also a great way of students getting into the industry, that they meet people from the industry at the game jams, and they say, oh, this guy, he was awesome, he did our audio, we should hire him. Like events like that, that's really important for me too. And like, yes, it's about the games. Some games are amazing, some has no potential whatsoever, but they're really, really fun in the moment while you're creating them. But I think it's way more about actually being together, social events, and also the process of creating a game with other people. That was what it was for me as a contestant myself. That was basically the creation of the game. I had like the best time of my life. And the game is crappy, you saw it. And but like it was just amazing, and people, they came by and they helped us and they consulted us in our game, which just made it even weirder. But that was the one. Like as a contestant, I prefer that. It's not so much about the voting and all of that, because we got no votes whatsoever. So I think a game jam is like in its nature a place where you meet up, hang out with people, and quoting you, meet awesome people, drink a lot of coffee and beer, and don't sleep, and make games.
Yeah, game jams do already have quite multiple roles, and also it is a global event. There's like 240 locations, and it's not run strictly with rules or anything. It's just as a general theme and a kind of guidelines and examples what to do, and then the places can make them like they wish. So I don't know if it's even, should we call it something else? I think it's amazing that we have like 11,000 people around the world doing something together at the same time. The things that are with the webpage, for instance, creativity, innovation, experimentation, it doesn't roll with all of the sites with the same way, but also we have to think about different cultures also. It's like there's different ways people do it in any way. I don't know. It's should we call an apple something else if other people thinks it a different way? I don't know.
Okay, so let's touch about a bit this learning event. Game jams can also be about learning stuff. So not also industry veterans come there and know how to code shaders, but I have a personal experience that I never saw a programming language called Lua and Love 2D, and after 48 hours I had proficient skills on coding a game with that, because there was such a pressure to learn new things. And well, I think that was one of the crucial things, was the pressure and the need to get something done. And our game actually, was quite successful, and one of the things was that it had to be done, something had to be finished. So do you think that the game jams acts as a learning experience also for new students?
Well, of course, yes. The kind of the idea behind the game jam is that you already have the skills so that you could push the creativity. But of course that happens, that people start learning new things, and when you're experimenting things, that's actually the learning process. So it doesn't matter whether you're a veteran or you're a student, you're still learning within the 48 hours. But there's other events with the time constraints. So all of these events don't have to be the same things. So I don't know where the game jams are going towards, but there's like the dispute between whether it should be competition or not. Like the added pressure of the competition as well is in some way interesting for some people.
I think it's because it's always nice to work under pressure, because then you get stuff done or you push yourself. And also I know Tim, he wants to say something, but I want to say something before you. No, basically like the game jam that Tim is hosting, Exile Game Jam, that's over 5 days. So that means that you can actually make several games. Yeah. And it's also very much a social event. What you're saying?
Okay. First of all, I think I didn't get your name, but it's okay. You're speaking very much in the global game jam sense when you talk game jams. We're also game jamming before global game jam, and the whole thing.
Yes, of course, you were the start.
And the whole thing about the competition and everything. It's not all over the place. At the Nordic Game Jam, people also jam board games, and some people come in with weird hardware hacking and do all sort of weird things. And that's very much a learning thing. But I think I'll get back to that. To get to the definition of game jams, I think it can be basically anything. And we have people meeting up. Sometimes they're not even making a game. They're making some weird prototype or more like a demo or something like that. I think we just, at our game jams, a lot of the game jams that we go to, it's very much just about meeting up and then making some weird experiment. And lately we've been having, we have a group in Copenhagen called Copenhagen Game Collective, where we travel to a lot of game jams and participate, and we based a lot of, almost all the new games that the different people and individuals in that group are making commercially are based on game jam prototypes, or at least trying to. So it's used for very different things. And we also had students coming to Nordic Game Jam 2 years ago. I think it was 2010. We did a track called Young Game Developers or something like that. Where you could sign up with like less or hardly no experience in making games, and I was hosting a few workshops a few days before the game jam where we taught people programming and so on. And it's not very difficult to teach to learn how to make a game. I think basically anybody can make a game. But game jams are definitely great at learning how to make games, but it can be very rough, and in the beginning people don't sleep too much, and it doesn't feel good to fail. But I totally agree that's very important. But there are different kinds of failure. That's the failures where you try to make some really cool, weird project, and you fail because it's not a complete polished game, but you have a cool idea. And then there's the failures where you just don't really have a game in the end, and that kind of sucks. It's nice to have some sort of thing you can show your friends and tell them what you did. So in that sense, I disagree that you should have something at the end. It doesn't need. It can be a board game. It can be anything that you can play around with. I think I showed earlier today at the talk. I showed my last game jam game, or the one from Nordic Game Jam.
We can do that later, maybe if we have time.
Yeah, it was made in half an hour, and it was definitely not a complete game, but it's playable and it's fun enough, so people can play it.
It got a lot of attention at the game jam.
Yes. Also,
you made it far actually.
I made a game where you could all 300, almost 400 participants could play it at the same time, on one computer.
But it's also like as we know from our game jam, Nordic Game Jam, is that it's the audience choice who wins. So like it's basically about encouraging everyone to have fun, and like if you do like a crazy awesome weird game, that you have a high potential rate of actually winning it.
Yeah, at Nordic Game Jam, it's always been the weird, quirky prototypes that were never wrapped up. We have had 2 games with no graphics that won, and we had a game with only graphics that won. And it's always like the good, weird presentation and idea, and never really the polished big game. Which is pretty cool.
Which for some who are there for professional reasons and they want to show that they can win a game jam, they might be offended by that because we didn't get any vote. We made a serious game. It's like, yeah, but that's not necessarily basically the goal with a game jam. You want to do something as awesome, also like your guys' game, like Rim 'em Up, because that's just so entertaining. It's so hilarious, right? And like I think that are the games that should definitely make it to the top.
Yeah. To answer your comment is that I didn't actually say that you should fail, but I think that we're so concentrated on making it work that people maybe think, in the beginning they start to think less, lower so that they can actually make it. Yeah. It is a good advice so that you simplify it and you cut like half of the features or whatever, that's a good advice. But then again, I think that some people get panicked. It's like we have to have something now, so the thing that we can execute, and they don't actually experiment.
I agree. I think I used to say like it's only 48 hours. It doesn't matter. You should only spend a weekend on it, do whatever.
Exactly.
Yes, but just make sure it's fun.
Well, let's continue on that same subject about Rails events. So, do you see that those Rails events, support learning of, support learning students?
Yeah, I think it's like the Rails girls. We have such a variety in participants in general. There are people. There are of course always some girls who actually know how to code, but they want to learn some Rails. And then there are a lot of people who are actually working with developers, and that's why I want to learn more. But then there are people like from social science background and school teachers, you know, you name it. So yeah, there are. You know, I think people learn a lot during the workshop day, but I think the problem is probably that how do you get the people continue with coding, because it's only, you know, like 8-hour workshop, that there is a limit how much you can learn during these hours.
Okay, so definitely there is a trend on new game jams and many other than Nordic game jams, or jams in general are becoming more and more frequent. So this is a trend, obviously. So, and these trends do have some effect on programming in the industry. Do you see that how jams would affect? Let's say that there would become Max Payne 4 or something like that. That the guys would at Rockstar or whatever company makes the game would use jams as a way to prototype new features or actually develop the game.
Companies do run jams already, so it's like part of a lot of companies already part of their practice. So they might have like a Friday jam or something, and it's like whatever kind of idea that you have, and it's just executed, and then we look at the games together. So they are taking that practice in, and it's not like total stranger for the iterative process and the experimentation and the you know, the pre-production and prototyping. So it's like it's part of the nature of the whole industry already. So yeah, was there a question?
Well, that was pretty quick, and yeah, that answers the question. So these social programming events are taken in by companies as tools to develop new features or tools as development process. So
for instance, I think it's like, first of all, in the developer community, whether you develop in tech or you develop in games, it's always been like that. Also just the hackathons, etc. Like you do something and you do it for a limited time, and you come up with something new and you share it with your friends and whoever's there, and you talk about it and you develop it further, maybe afterwards if it makes sense, right? So they also do it at tech development companies in the industry. They have camps like throughout a week, and then they come up with new features, for instance. Unity does that a lot. And also just like, the thing is that the game jams primarily were started from people who were working in the industry on bigger projects, and they said, we want to do something fun over a weekend. And then it started to become more common, and there were like everyone doing it, and now people, as Tim said, are prototyping new games on game jams, and they make it in commercial afterwards. And it's just interesting how many people that a game jam can attract. Like, even I did a game, I'm a suit, for Christ's sake. I can't develop anything, but I could do audio and game design. And that's just fantastic that I could just go in and do a game for a weekend and still like have a blast. And I think what's important is that basically the game jams, they connect people, and you meet up, and like there are a lot of the guys who met at game jams who are forming companies afterwards and getting hired and so on. So like that whole thing, yeah, I'm just wrapping up my previous talk about it, but that's what I find interesting.
I think like we are at the point of the industry that a lot of processes are kind of the next kind of wave of thinking about how to make things more formal, like not rigid, but a little bit more formal. So that's the consideration of how to make it flexible enough to allow creativity, to provide more new ideas which are not only PowerPoint presentation and pitching, but like true prototypes about gameplay and mechanics. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see that it's a little bit like formalized, because it's like the nature of the industry itself, and a lot of people like the demo scene, and you know, they were used to that. But now it's more of the, it becomes part of the policy, part of the practice.
Yeah, well, I would always say, like, I think the game industry as such, like international game industry these days, is really confused about what the next step is. So it's really a time
Isn't it always?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really young industry if you look at other industries. But what's really beautiful about it is that so many people can just walk out and become an instant video game developer rock star these days, because you have the tools to do it, and you can do a game in 48 hours, and you can polish it afterwards, and that's a beautiful thing about it. And I think game jams really support that culture of getting indie developers to actually go commercial instead of just doing their games in their spare time and not making any money of that.
Yeah, and the social aspect is very important.
And that's very important, because everyone helps out each other in this industry. And that means that if you meet 400 people at a game jam, you have an awesome game, they're all going to help you out and talk good about your game. So like, that is the beauty about it. And that's why we should have these social gatherings and have them more often. And also why Assembly is a great opportunity to come and meet people and talk about your games.
Okay, yeah, well, you touched about that specific thing, that social programming, and so you're making social games. But one of the things that some people might go to the events, like you said, to make a portfolio for themselves. Do you see that how much this affects the whole game jam event? So people come there and they try to make the most polished game they can make in 48 hours to sell themselves as, well, not so much sell themselves, but sell their talent to companies. And how does this reflect on the game jam philosophy?
Well, I think that it kind of shows that there's just lack of events. So maybe, you know, as you said, that there should be, maybe we should think about how to call them all of the events. But maybe there should be like more versatility in the events, that people can go and socialize in different ways, like whether it's creativity, craziness, or maybe perhaps like art thingies, and then maybe it's about polishing and socializing with AAA title companies and whatever. Maybe that's only the sign of that, because we don't have to make that, you know, in one event everything that helps people out. So I don't know. One of the things that I left out of my rants was that I actually ran through 40 applications for Nordic Game Program funding. Mm-hmm. And the same thing applies there. It's like they're a little bit boring ideas, so to speak. So I think that there should be more platforms for people to try out the crazy things when you're applying money from the cultural ministry. So, you know, we have had a discussion about whether games can be art or not, but it's like those ideas don't rise through art. And it's not all about business, so we should have different places for your artistry, you know, ambitions, and then maybe the learning processes and get together socializing, I don't know. But there's room for that.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions on any part, just raise your hands, because...
You were talking about the different platforms for this. Well, you probably heard of Oya, just coming out now next year, and the Kickstarter has gone incredibly well. I think it would be cool if Game Jams or Oya could be a part of Game Jams somehow, since it's such an open source platform. I mean, that would be really cool, like get some kind of, I don't know, Game Jam bundle, like Humble Indie bundle and stuff like that, to have there like a Nordic Game Jam bundle, all the Nordic Game Jam games in one bundle for like $1, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't even have to cost anything, just all of them there.
Yeah, but just so you know where to go and find them, because this is also the best way for developers to promote their work, whether this is what they're going to be like successful on, or just like the next game.
Exactly.
Because this is all about developers getting out there, right?
I don't know if we are not that far yet that we can actually attract a lot of the, you know, for instance, I tried to talk with the Finnish, the touch screen guys. I think it's called Anyway, so it's, I don't know if we have a reputation like wide enough to attract a lot of like platform developers and tech people and so on. So we should just spread the word more and pull the games and show the world. As you said, that it's difficult for the players and the participants to find out the game. So it's also part of the whole whole problem.
Like creating the awareness about it, and like as we were talking about, and you and I were talking about just before this, we got on stage, was that what would be lovely at one point was that the games that are really, really good from the game jams, we could get someone to sponsor some funds for the developers, that you actually have something like a follow-up fund kind of thing, so so they can finish their games, because for most people it just like it's just about paying rent for your household for 4 months or something. So like whoever has money, just throw them our direction and we create the fund. That's basically what I'm saying right now. But it would be great. So like the most awesome games, that it shouldn't be money that's an issue for why they're not coming out.
But it's I've started to think like also that when we're talking about that people should have possibilities to bring to push their games further. It's also bringing or making this turning the attention for that maybe the 48-hour game should be something that it is ready to push forward, because a lot of the things that happens on the jams could be something that you just take one feature out, you take something out of that and you just rework it, so it doesn't, you are used to the iteration, and it's like it seems ridiculous that you have to take that exact game, the 48-hour game that you made, and turn that into a commercial product.
Well, basically, I see all the game jam games as prototypes or something that could be more. Like, there are some that are just finished game, and that's what it is, right? But most of the game jams, they are prototypes for something, for something more, and you iterate. Yeah, definitely, definitely. And it could be that you just find a mechanic that just works, and that's just what you're going to build the whole game upon.
So you could rip off the graphics and the theme and everything. So
like, it's not that it has to be the same, but like the important thing is that people make games and they continue doing it.
I actually have a question. I understand that these game jams are mostly for professionals, but there have been
mostly for students, I think.
Yeah, but
it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, but still people who can program. But there has been situations when you have been trying to attract also beginners and giving like a workshop before. But how do what is there anything you do to that the people who are beginners, that they continue with their work? Do you arrange some follow-up or things like that? Because for beginners, it's probably very difficult to continue on their own.
We're talking about that
because
these
that's
days.
something which we have struggled with Rails girls.
Yeah, I think the thing that started the young game developers thing we did at Nordic Game Jam 2010 is that I've been running a summer camp with some other organizers for quite a few years, since 2000 and something early. Which is summer camp for high school students, where we simply just teach people in 7 days how to make a game, and like it's a game jam, but with 3 days of teaching. We learn them everything from programming, 3D modeling, rigging, animation, Photoshop, everything they need to know, and then at the same time they create a game, and we help them quite a lot, and that's 7 days. But then after that, then we have all the game jams that they participate in afterwards. So we keep meeting them, and for the past 4 Nordic Game Jams, we have seen some of those students in the finals every time, which is super cool.
I think that our participants, at least at Tampere, has been like 80% from the last year always. It's like they come back, at least that. So
that, and also, as you say, you come back every year in Nordic Game Jam, and then also we have game jams throughout the year that are smaller jams where we encourage people to come, and then also what we've been talking about with the IGDA Denmark, actually having a follow-up after Nordic Game Jam.
There's like, in our teams at least, it's been usually that there's like a couple of beginners, maybe completely newbies, and then some professionals, so it's like the mixture is quite good. They've tried to pull some of the good games further, but it's difficult for when people are so spread and they are not actually engaged to the company or whatever. So that's also like a practical issue. So it's not necessarily that they don't want to do that; they just get under the flood of other things.
I totally agree on that. And all the games that we've seen that made it further have never been the complete original team, because people are completely split up. But it's something from the game and something from the team that continues, and it's rarely that it's the whole team. But we also Copenhagen Game Collective, we organize this Nordic Game Indie Night, which is like the pre-party for Nordic Game Conference. But we also started this thing, Nordic Game Indie Sensation, which is like one of the Nordic Game Awards, where we see almost all of the Game Jam games, also Finnish Game Jam games, and a lot of Game Jam games being submitted there. And it's for small indie games. It can be anything, just in the right spirit. So in that way, you can also submit it there and take your game further. And we also do exhibitions, which is a kind of a big word. I would more say parties and arcade things. Showcasing the games. We had in Copenhagen, we had a street arcade where we filled the street with games and beer. It was really nice. And
we had a lot of dubstep, so it actually made our party the biggest one at that time because everyone loves dubstep these days.
Yeah, it was a few thousand people at least. We also had another showcasing where we filled a boat, like an old barge, big boat with Game Jam games and prototypes and all sort of things to showcase them.
So I think like those events, if you have the game jams and then those events throughout the year and like all your workshops and so on, like that makes people come back. Because what you need to create is like also a social coherence. Because when you know each other, then you show up. I know Tim, I show up at all of his events. Of course I would.
You also have a geographical advantage because it's like a huge city and you actually do it everybody in the same city.
We tend to forget Jutland. Is Jutland a country? Is it a part of Denmark? Like, what is it? But we tend to forget Jutland. Like, we were actually quite surprised the other day. There was one of the regular game events taking place in Jutland. We're like, who's going there? Yeah. Because we tend to forget that they actually.
You know, we have like 1,000 kilometers, and I really don't want to make it so that everybody comes into the Hartwell Arena from all the way from, I don't know, Utsjoki. And it's because I'm also that far. I'm actually originally from Sodankylä, so I know the pain. When I was the age that the people that participate here, I really wanted to come here, but it was like 800 kilometers too much for a girl. I know that there is my friends from the same village that they actually participated to the demo scene and everything that happened here, but you know, it was too much. So I don't want to make it so that it's only in Tampere.
But there are also things that you can do remote, like for instance Ludum Dare and other jams where you actually meet up and you just have the whole social interaction remote and via online
but
channels.
Parties and exhibitions, that's the
a
tricky
bit
part.
difficult. That's true. But like I know in Norway they have the same problem that they don't have a lot of social interactions because they're so spread out. And I guess we just tend
Netherlands just pulled it into the 5 locations. I don't know how their experiences are, but they used to be in I don't know, Utrecht or
yeah, they are the HQU, I think now. But like there are some hubs, like there are some hubs in Amsterdam and Utrecht, and then down in Hilversum at the HQU. But yeah, they did spread it out last time around, right? Yeah.
It's a little bit like political question as well, you know.
I mean, they also get some regional funding, so they have to listen into that. We don't get any funding at all. So we can pretty much just decide it's Copenhagen. But you did also with the Young Game Developers Camp, like you actually got a bit of funding from a university like in between Zealand and Jutland, so that was why you moved the location down there, right? It's also up to the venue. Like if someone really wants to attract game developers, if they make it available, then we move in venue, right? We just have a good spot in Copenhagen. So.
Yeah, how is it with you? Like, what are the locations that you run the events?
Well, in Finland so far it has been only Helsinki, but now there is going to be an event in Turku in autumn, and hopefully in Oulu and maybe in Tampere also. So now we are going like to other cities in Finland.
Yeah, I think it's very important in Finland because it's very expensive to travel for teenagers or whatever. It's like it's a very low budget. It's like I think that my budget for Gamescom is low, but I don't think that it's not. So it's very important to bring these events to the people, and that's why Global Game Jam is so awesome. It's like it's not in San Francisco; it's all around the world. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to start to sum things up. Well, there's this one big question. Some of it's already answered, but what do you see the benefit of having social events around this? Well, not just programming or graphics design, but this game development in general. In Satu, in your case, it might be more of a programming focus. But if you could start, Annakaisa, and what you see is the benefit of this social events around game development.
like what is the bad sides? I think it would be easier to answer, but it's like a lot of benefits. It's we get more versatile, things happening in the industry. We attract people that don't necessarily, think that they are capable of, making games or programming or do something like that. It's especially like girls. It's like I've been amazed that in our teams it has been, if there's like 10 teams, there's like 10 girls and 1 girl in each team. So it's like, I think it's very important so that it's like a low barrier and you can just visit and see what happens. Like assembly, you can come here and you don't necessarily have to participate first, so you can see that it's possible and you can meet alike people, and it's very important. Also for the recruiting and also hopefully for the experimentation as well, but yeah, very important. I don't know how to answer that. It's like huge.
Okay, Julie?
Well, basically, now you're saying something with girls. I'm always amazed that at the Nordic Game Jam that I see so many more girls than I see normally in the game industry. Exactly. Because there are a lot of girls dragged in from everywhere, like, oh, you can draw something, you can do some graphics, like, you can do some audio. Okay, come on. You can program? Awesome. And then they're brought in, and it's like, now you do games. But I'm like more like a hardcore program. No, you do games now. So we see a lot of that. And that's amazing that not only girls coming from like other industries, but a lot of people coming from other industries and saying, hey, I want to be a part of this too. And then maybe they stay. Hopefully they do.
Isn't there like in Copenhagen something like a jam between movies and games as well? Because it's like those kind of like, the collective or Knaplock
No, the
games?
collective is not, no, that's not in movies. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
the
so
new buzzword.
Yeah, but anyway, so there should be more. It's like I just started.
I think, Tim, you're one of the few who's actually crossing over to those movie people. We always just angry with them because they get more money and we don't get anything.
Yeah, but that's happening. It's like, I just started a new research project. It's about hybrid experiences. It's about toys and games. So we should have more of the collaboration between the different
I agree,
industries.
they have money, so they actually get paid.
But anyway, so yeah.
I don't know, like you actually the one to answer this because you are more at those crossover events. I'm just ranting now about the film industry not giving us any of their public money. They do, a little bit.
But they do worse though. It's like...
Yeah, exactly. Like we make more money, but they get the funding.
Get more funding, yeah.
Okay, so...
Yeah, with Rails Girls, well, the social part, it's so important, and I really love the positive energy around the events. It's such a wonderful situation when you put a lot of people with different background, enthusiastic people together, and also for girls to learn how to program. It's kind of important to show that programming not necessarily need to be like lonely and boring and mathematical. So it's all in all, kind of.
Okay, so did you have something?
Well, I forgot it.
Okay, sorry. Do we have any questions from the audience? We are running out of time, but if there is some...
Oh, there's no time to play games. Damn it. We'll do it afterwards then.
Yeah. So, apparently... Okay, so we'll close this panel here. Thank you for coming. This is the last, I think, the last panel that is held here. The next is Robot Sota, which is apparently few floors down. So thank you for participating from IGDA Finland, and hope to see you next year.
Yes. Thought I knew how to do this before.